It is impossible for me to estimate how many of my early impressions of the world, correct and the opposite, came to me through newspapers. A.J. Liebling, 1947. The Wayward Pressman. For a stubby man with flat feet, Joe Liebling was amazingly agile. Acquaintances in London during the war were startled to see him jogging through Hyde Park, a towel tucked inside his sweatshirt, tossing jabs and uppercuts, a la a boxer doing road work. While covering combat in North Africa and France, Liebling surprised reporter pals and platoon sergeants with his stamina and quickness of foot. Still, whether at the Hotel Lede in Algiers, Scott's Bar in Piccadilly, or a dumpy cafe in La Rive Gauche, Joe Liebling did some of his best work sitting on a bar stool. It was in a gin joint near the New Yorker offices in the fall of 1939 that Liebling wheedled his way to Paris. Janet Flanner, the New Yorker's longtime Paris correspondent who wrote under the pseudonym Genet, had a family situation that required her to return to the States. Liebling, who'd studied at the Sorbonne in 1926 and adored everything French, had always coveted the Parisian beat, especially now that his héros in the French army were, for the second time in 2 decades, facing down their foe from the east. His immediate superior, fellow writer St. Clair McKelway, was impressed by anyone who could converse in a foreign language. So, after Liebling plied him with alcohol and began not only babbling in French, but also offering paeans to Gallic culture and cuisine, McKelway, who'd been cool to the idea of his chubby 35-year-old friend heading to Paris with Hitler's forces massed along the Maginot Line, crumbled. But before Liebling could book passage on the Pan Am Clipper, the move had to be blessed by Harold Ross, the New Yorker's irascible founder. Ross loved Liebling's writing, but fretted that Joe's appetite for ooh la la might do him in. "But for God's sake, stay away from the lowlife," Ross barked as the ebullient Liebling plotted his return to the City of Light. In truth, it was Liebling's passion for New York's raffish underground that made him such an invaluable contributor to Ross's magazine. There was no shortage of New Yorker writers familiar with Manhattan's upscale haunts, but no one else at the Journal knew the city's gambling dens and boxing havens and forbidden speakeasies. Indeed, it was a back-alley assignment that got Liebling hired in the first place. That and the fact that McKelway was almost as big a screw-up, which, given Liebling's checkered academic and professional past, was saying a lot. McKelway, remembered New Yorker editor Catherine S. White, had been assigned a 1935 story about a black evangelical faith healer accused of bilking his flock. Although a gifted stylist, McKelway was a slipshod interviewer and note-taker. Liebling, who could be methodical when he put his mind to it, and had connections to bunco artists that could prove helpful, was signed on as McKelway's legman. Their partnership worked beautifully. The story turned out edgy, and Liebling was given a job at the only publication in America suited to his tastes and talent. His New Yorker colleague Brendan Gill marveled at one of Liebling's devastating interview techniques. Joe liked to sit in stony silence, his ovoid head cocked to one side, staring at the interviewee, until the poor thing cracked. It was said of Ring Lardner, one of Liebling's sports-writing idols, that he talked in grunts. Liebling, wrote First Army Public Relations Officer Lieutenant Roy Wilder, Jr., was the obverse. Joe talked in chuckles. When provoked, however, chuckling Joe was prone to fisticuffs. One night at Bleek's Artist and Writers Saloon on West 40th, John Parsons O'Donnell, a lippy America firster with the New York Daily News, loudly disparaged the Roosevelt administration. Liebling unleashed a couple of haymakers before friends hauled him away. Another night at Bleek's, he flattened a loudmouth, supposedly with one punch, who was spewing anti-Semitic garbage. It was one of Joe's prouder moments. Catherine S. White, E.B.'s wife, was around Liebling for decades. She was astonished that, unlike other temperamental writers in her orbit, Liebling never seemed to suffer from writer's block. Liebling's colleagues, most of whom agonized over every word, would shake their heads as they walked past Joe's office with its clattering typewriter. Within minutes, he'd be prowling the hallways, eager to show off his immaculate copy. "I can write better than anyone who can write faster," Liebling once boasted, "and I can write faster than anyone who can write better." It's not that the fast but still good Liebling couldn't have been a successful newspaper man. It's that he chose not to.